How you doing, guys? Eric from WorldWasteland.com out here in my muscle dungeon to tell you about a real-world preparedness event that happened right here in Las Vegas. They're happening day in, day out around the world, it seems, and preparation of all kinds being vindicated left and right. And this one's interesting for a couple reasons. Two major lessons to learn from this one. What happened was there is a gasoline and diesel pipeline that apparently brings most of the fuel into the city of Las Vegas. It's apparently not trucked in. It's run by a company called Kinder Morgan, giant company. They announced that there was a leak, small leak in the pipeline that they're gonna have to go out and investigate and temporarily stop, shut it down, but they didn't anticipate any major shortages of any kind. Instantly, people started panicking. Not even everyone, but enough people went to like the gas stations right away to try and fill up that there were huge lines, fights breaking out, people being extremely rude and surly and having all sorts of issues. And this was within a few hours of this information basically being made public and working its way around social media. So it goes to show you two things. Obviously, you got to have some gasoline stored up, which I did, so I did not have to partake in this madness. And that's the second part of the lesson to be learned, is the madness. Within 12 hours, it was announced that the pipeline repair was fixed or dealt with and everything was back to normal. Gasoline hadn't even run out yet, and already people were out there at gas stations potentially getting in fights, potentially risking their lives. There's a lot of people around here that are criminals that, might be carrying weapons, and if you start getting into an argument with them, could escalate. Certainly causing a lot of stress themselves, standing in lines, wasting time, all for something that could have been dealt with and was dealt with by me and other preppers by having a few dozen gallons of gasoline stored up. And so you absolutely need to do this, especially with what we're seeing coming with conflicts in Iran and Israel, Russia, all this stuff. It's very likely that we're gonna have temporary gas shortages in places, temporary gas insane price spikes, all sorts of reasons why you would wanna have fuel stored that doesn't necessarily involve major zombie apocalypses, but certainly in the event of major apocalypses or major shit the fan events, then it becomes even more important. So you got a couple options. These I would not get, let me see if I can get down here. I would not get the cheap metal jerry cans. I got some from like Sportsman Guide, Amazon a couple times. They are not good. The temptation to save, 30, 50 bucks is big, I understand that, but those things will split seams on you, they will leak, they will rust out, they're just no good. The options I would recommend are the Wavian, which you can get on Amazon. These are pretty good, but they still are the metal ones, but they are the good version of the metal ones. So those are the ones that I would recommend if you want to go with the metal one. They come with the spout. These were great. They hold just over 5 gallons, a little bit over 5 gallons. And these are called the Wavian NATO fuel can. I'll put a link in the description to these as well. The best thing you can get are these. These are the Scepter plastic fuel cans. This plastic, and you've seen the ones that I have for water, the fuel ones are really hard to get. This plastic is a lot tougher than the metal when it comes to throwing it in the back of a truck. It can't get split open or cracked or anything nearly as much. It can take a lot more abuse basically. And just make sure you also pick up a spout, because the metal ones often will come with the spout. Make sure it does though. You know who sells these? Our buddy Canadian Prepper.
Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here.
These are like impossible to get anywhere else in the US. In fact, I think because of regulations in the US, you've seen how gas cans, like little red gas cans, have gotten so weird with like weird spouts and off-gassing safety measures. Because of all those regulations, I don't even think you can sell these as fuel cans in the United States anymore. But in Canada, you can still get them. I got these through Canadian Preparedness. I have a couple of these. Not cheap, 100% worth it if you want serious gasoline storage, especially if you want the ability to, throw these in the back of a truck quickly. These spouts that screw in are a lot better than these that just clamp down with a little O-ring on them, because these can drip on you. They're not flawless. And then you have little options like this, which these are just for emergency usage and stuff. This was actually from Battle Box. It's a Southern Survival. I have not yet filled this one up, but I intend to. Now that everything is back to normal. And a couple other things you might want to get, obviously, if you don't want to have to cycle out your gas every few months. gasoline stabilizer. This stuff will allow you to store it for up to 2 years. So I definitely would recommend that you don't wait 2 years, for the simple fact that even if it'll last 2 years, you know, what if you have gas in your tanks that's 18 months old? That's when a disaster hits, and now your gas is only good for 6 more months. So even with the stabilizer, I cycle it out about every year. That way, if something were to happen at the year mark before I cycle it, I have another year of it being potentially usable. Something else you might want to get is some kind of manual fluid transfer pump. Now you can pour these pretty easily with the spouts, obviously, into your gas of your, into your vehicle. But if you have to transfer to anything else, if you want to get gas out of a vehicle or some other container, in between 2 containers, a little transfer pump like that will work well. Sometimes, especially if you are not physically fit enough to lift up these 45-gallon cans or whatever when they're full and hold it up enough to pour it into your car. Maybe your car gassing, you've got a lifted truck or whatever. All sorts of reasons why it's a good idea to have an ability to transfer the fuel without necessarily hoisting these cans above your head. Of course, a decent funnel comes in handy as well. Not really necessary when you have these great. The spouts for these are, we used to call them the donkey dicks in the Army.
You're a true vulgarian, aren't you?
They're super long, they're flexible, like I said.
That's what she said.
It screws in. These are just top of the line. I don't even think he does affiliates. These things are great. I've been talking about them for years and lamenting the fact that we couldn't get them in the US anymore. You had to try to look on eBay and stuff and see if people were selling used ones. So take advantage of the fact that you can buy these. Go to CanadianPreparedness.com, pick up a couple of them. Make sure you get it. You don't necessarily have to have a spout for each one. If you want to save some dollars, you can use the same spout. I like to have a couple of the spouts, obviously, because one could fail. But you can always just use a regular funnel and pour as well if you needed to. So keeping a long funnel around is useful as well. So this is it. I mean, this is a couple bucks for the cans, obviously, and the stabilizer. But beyond that, the gasoline is something that you would be buying anyway. So just like the food, you can use what you store and just cycle it out, and you're not really spending any extra money on gas. You just have a few gallons sitting there. So I think for most people, having 10 to 25 gallons sitting around in your gas cans will make a big difference, especially if you keep your gas in your vehicles over half tank. And right now, I definitely would do that. That's something that I would do and am doing. Is because of all the craziness going on in the world, the potential for these things, just like it happened here in Vegas, to pop off with shortages at any moment. Just keep your gas at half tank at least. Top it off constantly. Make sure you have a few. And so if you have at least a half a tank of gas, at least 10 extra gallons sitting around in the cans, that can go a long way, in covering any of these short-term disasters. And for most vehicles, an extra 10 gallons can get you 250 to 350 miles, depending on, obviously, the gas mileage of your vehicle. So I like having a little more than 10 gallons, but you got to worry about storage and things like that too, and the cost of the cans, which does add up, but there's no substitute. You got to have a solid can. It's a disaster to have a cheap can and have it leak everywhere. Not only is it a huge waste of the can and the gas, it's a massive safety concern and a potential hazard. So learn that lesson the hard way. Do not skimp on these cans. If you want the absolute best, get the Scepters, but these Wavian ones seem to be holding up pretty well. But that's definitely the minimum. I wouldn't go any cheaper than that. So we'll try out the Southern Survival one. I have gotten that from a battle box a while back and have not had gas in it, so I'm not sure how it holds up. But it seems to be the same style construction, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys have done for gas storage, and if you've had anything like that in your area yet. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.